My parents excluded my children and me from Christmas. Mom explained, your brother's girlfriend is meeting the family. He doesn't want your children there. They'd spoil the perfect image. I grasped it. I replied, then hung up. The following day, they appeared at my door enraged, and the second they saw me, my brother's partner declared, okay, gather round. Because what I'm about to tell you, you won't believe it. Can you imagine your own family, the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally, telling you your kids are too loud, not on brand, and not welcome at Christmas? Mine did, and honestly, it shattered something inside me, but it also woke me up. My name's Levi. I'm 36, and I'm an art director. Yeah, I design things for a living. But the most important job I have, being a divorced dad to two incredible little tornadoes, Mia, who's 7, and Theo, 5. I pack their lunches like there's some huge creative campaign. I'm the oldest, you know, the steady one. The can you take a quick look at this guy for every family problem that somehow always turns out to not be quick. It was a Tuesday night in December when my mom called. We're doing Christmas Eve at our house, she said, already in that breathless, hostess with the mostest tone. But then it shifted. Honey, your brother is bringing his girlfriend to meet the family. He doesn't want your kids there. They'd ruin the perfect image. The silence on my end was so thick, it rang in my ears. My hand tightened on the phone. Perfect image? She's very particular, Mom continued, her voice practically an apology. Minimalist. They're making content. The kids are loud. You understand. Then, softer, almost a whisper, but it felt like a dagger. Be flexible, Levi. For once. I stared at the microwave clock. 7:42 p.m. I pictured Mia's construction paper chain, all sparkly and crooked, draped across our cheap bookshelf. Theo was probably asleep on the couch, dinosaur pajamas, a smear of cocoa on his lip. And yeah, in that moment, I understood. I said, I understand, and I hung up. I didn't sleep a wink that night. I just scrolled through photos on my phone. Years of Christmas mornings. Wrapping paper stuck to little socked feet. The beautiful, blurry, camera-shaken chaos of real joy. I thought about image. How my actual job is to make things look good without lying. And how incredibly different that is from erasing all the messy, real parts so you just appear better. The next morning, a text from Dad. Don't take this personally. By noon, though, they were on my porch anyway. Mom, Dad, my brother Zach, and the girlfriend. No heads up, just the doorbell, and a blur of winter coats. Mom's face was pulled so tight, I thought it might just snap. I opened the door. Zach, my younger brother, looked like he'd been plugged in and charged up. Boyfriend V2, festive edition. The girlfriend, well, she stood a half step forward. Perfect hair, perfect beige coat. Phone already in her hand. She looked me up and down. Then her gaze flickered to the paper chain behind me. So, she said, her voice bright and flat, like a brand slogan. You're the one who keeps ruining the family brand. See, this didn't start with Christmas. It never does. I've been the family's reliable safety net since I was 19. When Dad's contractor messed up the permits and the fine hit, who covered it? Me. When Zach's first car died because he apparently forgot oil changes were a thing, who bought him a used Civic? Me. And I pretended I wasn't still paying it off when he sold it to buy designer sneakers. I built my career on deadlines and mood boards, and I built their emergencies into my calendar like they were holidays. When I got married, they showed up with opinions. When I got divorced, they showed up with silence. But my kids? Mia and Theo. They brought me back to center. Two small humans who genuinely believe sprinkling sugar on toast makes it cake. My custody is 70/30ths, and guess what? Christmas Eve fell on my week this year. I'd already bought a pre-lit tree, because, let's be real, the real ones make me itch. Zach, he's 32 and permanently soft-focused. He posts close-ups of watches he can't afford and quotes about grinding at 5 a.m. He never looks tired. That's because other people do the actual grinding. Mom calls him entrepreneurial. Mostly, he texts, bro, quick favor. I design for a living, right? Guess who designed 3 logos for Zach's brands? Guess who built his Shopify store, patched his terrible product photos, and retouched his girlfriend's candid street shots so the trash bags in the background vanished? You're so good, they'd say. We'll pay you once it takes off. It never did. My photo credit, just like those trash bags, vanished. Money talk in our family always wore a costume. We called it helping out, being there, just until payday. But the biggest costume of all was family. Because if you said no to family, you were cold. If family said no to you, you were dramatic. 2 months before this no kids Christmas debacle, Mom texted me. Could you add us to your phone plan? Ours is getting too expensive. I did the math. Saw the auto pay. Added them. It wasn't just phones, though. Netflix, then Hulu, then Dad's iPad on my Apple Music. It's just streaming, Mom said. You don't even notice. Oh, I noticed. I noticed when my Adobe Creative Cloud bill doubled, and I realized Zach had logged into my account on his laptop to download Photoshop for a quick flyer. I noticed when he sent me an InDesign file that still had my account's stock image watermark all over it. I noticed when a $218 charge for a premium template bundle hit my business card at 3 a.m., and the vendor's invoice matched an email forwarded from Zach at zk-lective.io. Accident, he said. I thought it was still the free trial. I sent him a screenshot of the charge. He heart-reacted it. Meanwhile, Mom loved to rehearse this story about fairness. We supported you in art school, she'd always say. I worked nights to pay for art school. They gave me a suitcase and a brilliant speech. Support came in the form of cold Christmas leftovers, wrapped in foil, dropped off at my dorm like some kind of performance art. The girlfriend. Her name is Brooke, because, of course, it is. She slid into their lives around Thanksgiving. Blonde, smartphone, smart mouth. I met her once at a brunch where everyone ordered air, and she cut her pancakes into perfect geometries for the camera, never actually eating them. She told me she was a creative director for a candle brand that sold one candle at a time for $89. I asked what the scent was. Clean. Right. Brooke believes in neutral palettes and kids only in muted clothing. Mia wears a neon unicorn hoodie like it's armor. Theo thinks socks are optional. My house. It photographs honest. Brooke called it chaotic. Zach called it not on brand. Mom called it something to work on, honey. So, when Mom delivered the Christmas news, no kids, because perfect image, I could practically hear Brooke in the background. Coaching. We're doing a white-on-white table, Mom explained. The kids will touch things. As if touching is a crime. I said, I understand. Because I've learned if you fight in the moment, they just twist your anger into your problem. If you go quiet, you get a minute to breathe. The next morning, on my porch, the four of them looked like a corporate board meeting. Mom went first. You made me feel terrible last night, she said, as if I'd slashed her tires. I said 2 words. That's the problem, Dad added. You're always withholding. Family needs communication. Zach adjusted his watch. Bro, it's one Christmas. We're trying to land a partnership. Brooke lined up a photographer, a food stylist, the whole thing. It's our shot. Kid noise ruins content. You can drop the kids at their dad's while you come through. They're my kids, I said. Christmas with their dad is not a negotiable aesthetic. Brooke stepped in, voice pleasant, like she was selling something. We're building something. You're an art director, Levi, you get it. The feed has to feel cohesive. I looked at Mom's eyes. Calculating. There's also a budget, she said, finally revealing the real thing. We're spreading ourselves thin. Hosting is expensive. We'd appreciate some help. You've always been generous. There it was. How much? I asked. Don't be crass. Mom snapped. Then, 2,000 would take the pressure off. Food, florals, maybe a small stipend for the photographer. We want to do it right, and we want you there, Dad added quickly. Just you. Without the kids, Brooke echoed. We can have a separate kid day after the new year. Something low-key. Just then, Theo padded into the hallway behind me, hair wild, clutching his stuffed triceratops. He blinked at the grown-ups like they were loud, colorful birds. Pancakes. Brooke's smile faltered for half a second. She looked down at her beige boots. Oh. I turned my body so Theo couldn't see their faces. Go sit, bud. I'll make them. As he ran back to the kitchen, I faced the panel again. Let me think, I said. Today would be best, Mom pushed. We have deposits. Zach lifted his chin. Friends don't let friends miss opportunities. Family, Dad corrected. Family. Zach agreed, like he'd invented the concept. I nodded slowly. Right. Family. I closed the door. I let it click shut and leaned my forehead against the cool wood. I could hear my pulse thrumming. In the kitchen, Mia hummed Jingle Bells, off-key while she rifled through the sprinkles drawer. Theo drummed the table with a spoon. The house sounded like life. My phone buzzed. Group chat. Family immediate. Mom had renamed it last year, right after I paid Dad's surprise tax bill. Mom, Levi, please don't be difficult. Dad, we need a decision by 3. Zach, Venmo is fine. Brooke, sending inspo. 3 beige squares dropped in. A white tablecloth. White candles. A bowl of bleached pine cones that looked like bones. I opened my photos. Scrolled to my receipts folder. I keep receipts like it's a hobby now. Not for revenge. For memory. Dad's contractor fine. Zach's Civic. iPad for Mom. Groceries that went missing from their porch and somehow showed up in their fridge. I screenshotted a grid of them and dragged it into the chat. Me, just a reminder. Mom replied in under 10 seconds. Tacky. Zach, we said we'd pay you back. Me, you also said that about the Shopify and the photo gear and the Adobe charges and the phone plan. Blue dots typing. Stop typing again. Brooke, finally. Money is leverage over family is not the vibe. I stared at that sentence until the edges of my vision went soft. Then something clicked. It wasn't a fresh idea. It was an old one I'd ignored. Boundaries aren't mean. They're honest. I typed. Me. I'm not paying for a photographer to capture my kid's absence. Silence. My phone didn't ring. It shrieked. Mom called. I let it ring out. She texted instead. You're blowing this out of proportion. Be an adult. Me. I am. Here's what's changing. I stood at the counter with sticky kid hands tugging at my shirt and wrote the list in plain words. I'm removing you from my phone plan at the end of this billing cycle. I'll send you the transfer PIN. I'm changing my Adobe password and will report any unauthorized login. Zach, stop using my license. Streaming accounts will be signed out today. You can set up your own. I won't be funding events I or my kids are uninvited from. If you attempt to add yourself to any of my business cards again, I will file a fraud report. I hit send. 3 dots. Then Dad's threats. Me, boundaries. Zach, dude, over $2,000? Me, over a pattern. Mom, you're making this hostile. Your children will hear about this. I looked at Mia's face, dusted with powdered sugar, and felt something steady solidify inside me. No, I said out loud to the empty room. They'll hear I protected them. The doorbell rang again. I opened it. The 4 of them were on the porch, tighter now, the winter air swirling around their edges. Mom started to speak. I held up a hand. Calm. I'm done being the bank and the stylist and the silent one, I said. You can host any Christmas you want. White table, no kids, content, whatever. But not with my money. And if you ever try to shut my kids out so you can look cleaner online, you shut me out too. Zach's jaw flexed. You'd blow up Christmas over a vibe? You blew it up when you made family conditional. I shot back. Brooke lifted her phone like a shield. This is unhinged. Then don't hinge on me. Dad went for the soft knife. Levi, son, think of the bigger picture. I am, I said and closed the door. It's wild how quiet a house feels after a hard boundary. Not sad quiet, just clear. Like when a client finally approves the layout and the noise in your head stops. I made pancakes. Mia overdid the sprinkles. Theo insisted on a Christmas dinosaur made from banana slices and M&Ms. We watched a terrible claymation special from the 70s because the snow looked like shredded coconut. We cut paper snowflakes that looked like amoebas. The kids were louder than any content could bear, and it sounded like safety. My phone became a slot machine. Messages pinged all day. Mom, what you're doing is cruel. Dad, you owe us a conversation. Zach, adult men don't act like this. Brooke, unbelievable. Then text from numbers I didn't have saved. Aunts who prefer whispering to my face. Maybe tone it down. Your mom is crying. Kids make things complicated. The subtext hummed. Be small again. At noon, the first consequence hit. Not mine. Dad texted. Phones aren't working. Is this you? I hadn't cut them off yet. I called the provider. Turns out Zach had ordered an iPhone upgrade on my account at 3 a.m., and the SIM transfer had auto-deactivated Mom's device. The rep asked to confirm the shipping address. It was Zach's apartment. I canceled the order, triggered a fraud alert, and told the rep to flag any changes as owner only. I texted the group. Nice try. Sent the screenshot. Zach, wow. Petty. Me, legal. By late afternoon, an email from Adobe. New sign-in detected. City, same as Zach's. I hit sign out of all devices. Changed the password. Turned on 2-factor authentication with my physical key. I messaged him separately. If you need design software, buy it. He replied with a vomiting emoji. Around 5, my doorbell rang again. This time just Brooke. Beige coat, bare head, cold pink on her cheeks. "I don't want a scene," she said. Then stopped showing up at my door. She glanced past me, where the kids were dancing to Jingle Bell Rock at a volume that rattled the utensils. "Look, I get that you're protective," she tried. "But you're tanking something big. A brand offered us product for the dinner. They like clean lines. Babies with sticky hands don't fit. They're not babies." I didn't mean, I kept my voice low. "Brooke, I'm not your problem. You just met my family. They're very good at spending other people's money and calling it love. If you want that, fine. But my kids aren't props you can crop out." Something changed in her eyes. Not agreement, but a flicker. She looked at the paper chain again. "You could style the kid day," she tried weakly. "We already did." I nodded at Mia, who was wearing 3 different patterns and a grin. "And it's perfect." Brooke swallowed. "We won't ask you for anything else," she said, turning away. "I know," I said and closed the door. That night, Mia asked, her voice very small, "Did we do something wrong?" Grandma said we're a lot. My brain went white hot. I sat on the floor so our eyes were level. "You were loud," I said, "and silly and brilliant, and not for anyone's brand. Someone made a grown-up choice that wasn't kind. That's on them." She nodded, thinking, then climbed into my lap. Theo crawled across the rug like a lizard and piled on. We became a kid heap. I breathed into the tangle of their hair and made a new rule in my bones. The second someone makes them think their bigness is a flaw, we're done with that someone. Far away, at the white-on-white dinner, Mom posted a story of candles. I couldn't watch it because I'd removed myself from following her months ago. A cousin DM'd me screenshots anyway. The table looked like a hospital woke up and decided to be festive. Zach gave a toast. And there, in the reflection of a serving spoon, were the empty spaces where kids would have stood on tiptoe to blow out candlelight. The next day, the money part arrived, late and dramatic, like it always does. Mom called first thing, her voice pitched to martyr. "We had to put the catering on our credit card because you wouldn't help. The bank flagged it. We're over limit." "I'm sorry you planned something you couldn't afford," I said. "You'll reimburse us for the difference," she said, as if that's what sons do when parents can't math. "No." She inhaled sharply. "Your father is very disappointed." Dad got on the line. "Levi, your brother stepped up." He covered the photographer out of his own pocket. A second text from Zach came through during the call. A screenshot of a pay now request he'd sent me for $1,850. Memo: Christmas team support, your share. I laughed. I couldn't help it. "I'm not joining your co-op. You'll regret alienating your family," Dad said low. "I regret the time I didn't spend with my kids because I was fixing your problems." Click. They hung up. By noon, Mom's friend, the one who treats drama like cardio, posted a Facebook status about ungrateful children who abandon their elders. Another cousin sent me a DM. "You okay? People are wild." Then also, Zach tried to borrow my camera, and when I said no, he said you owe him for the brand work you did for free. He said he's invested in your career. I sent her a single skull emoji. At 3, a different knock. Not Brooke. Not my parents. Aunt Linda, the family's quiet rebel, with a bag of gingerbread and a look I hadn't seen on a relative in years. Respect. "I told your mother she was out of line," she said, slipping off her boots. "She said you were cruel." I said you were right. She handed Mia the gingerbread and Theo a pack of glow sticks. "Merry Kid Christmas." She stayed for an hour. She didn't try to fix anything or ask me to. She just listened. When she left, I stood on the porch in the early dark and realized I felt light. Not happy, not yet, but unhooked. The practical stuff came next. I moved my business account to a new bank and closed the card Zach had figured out how to use online through saved autofill. I put a credit freeze on. I removed my parents from my phone plan and sent them the transfer PIN, like I promised. Mom wrote, "We can't figure this out." I replied with a screenshot of the provider's step-by-step guide. Dad wrote, "We're old." And I wrote, "You're capable." They didn't like that. I took a trash bag and cleared the closet of every favor that had become an expectation. The spare iPad, the DSLR Zach borrowed, the ring light Brooke left here after that brunch. I put them in the car and drove to their house. Left the bag on the porch with a note, "Returning your stuff. Please return my piece." A neighbor saw me. "Merry Christmas," he said. "Working on it," I replied. That night, While the kids slept tangled in one bed because it felt safer, I opened the laptop and made a private folder called Evidence. Not because I planned to go to war, but because clarity beats gaslighting. Screenshots, dates, charges, the $218 template bundle, the iPhone order, the payout request, the perfect image, text. I didn't need to send it to anyone. I just needed to see it all in one place. And no, I wasn't imagining a pattern. On Christmas morning, Mia woke me at 6:03 a.m. with a whisper scream. Snow. It wasn't sticking, it was wet and half-hearted. We still ran outside in pajamas and boots. Theo licked a snowflake off the mailbox and declared it minty. I made cinnamon rolls that came out uneven and perfect. We opened presents slow. No content. I took 2 photos just for me. Around noon, a final text from Brooke. For the record, I didn't know about the money asks. That's not my lane. I'm sorry about the brand comment. I said something that wasn't kind because I panicked about being liked. I'm rethinking some things. I typed and deleted 3 drafts. I ended with, good. January is always gray where we live. It's the month the light goes thin, and you learn what you kept from December besides receipts. I kept 2 things, a clean calendar and a clean conscience. Mom tried 3 more times. Sunday dinner to talk this out. Your father misses you. We need to set expectations moving forward. All of it sounded like project management, not care. I replied once, when you're ready to apologize to my kids for making them feel like a problem, we can talk. Not before. Silence. Zach posted a carousel of the white-on-white dinner with a caption about grinding with my day one and a prayer hand emoji. Comments said, goals. I scrolled past. He texted me a week later. Brooke and I are taking a break. You happy? I stared at it until it shrunk on the screen. Then I put my phone face down and built a Lego spaceship with Theo that looked like a toaster with wings. At work, I stopped staying late to vacuum other people's messes because I realized I'd been rehearsing the same role everywhere. I trained my junior designer instead of just fixing her files at 11 p.m. I said, no rush, when a project manager tried to turn a preference into a deadline. My boss asked if I was okay. I said, I'm good, and I meant it. Mia asked if we were going to Grandma's house again. I told her we could invite Grandma here if she wanted to apologize. Will she? Mia asked. People surprise you, I said. 2 weeks later, Aunt Linda invited us to her place for hot cocoa. No agenda, she said. Just warmth. We went. She had mismatched mugs and a puzzle missing 4 pieces, and a dog that sheds like it's his job. It felt like a life you can trust. On the drive home, the kids sang off-key, messy great. The last thing I did was small but huge. I printed a sheet of paper and taped it inside my kitchen cabinet, where we keep the bowls. It's just a list. I don't pay to be treated badly. My kids are not negotiable. No is a complete sentence. Family is a verb. I read it every morning. On days I forget who I am to them, it reminds me who I am to me. A few nights ago, Dad finally texted. Your mother wants to try again. Sunday, bring the kids. I breathed. Then, we'll come by for an hour. If anyone mentions image or asks for money, we leave. He wrote, fine. No emoji. Progress disguised as grumpiness. We went. Mom had clearly practiced sorry in the mirror. It came out stiff, but real enough. She knelt to Mia and Theo and said, I made a mistake. Not if, not, but just the sentence. I watched their faces. They forgave her instantly because they're kids and their default setting is open. I let my shoulders drop an inch. Zach wasn't there. Mom said he was busy. I didn't ask. We stayed for exactly 1 hour. We ate dry cookies. We took home leftovers we actually wanted. When Mom started to hover and ask around family trips and budgets, I stood, smiled, and said, we're heading out. No scene, no lecture, just the line. We left at 59 minutes, because sometimes you keep promises to yourself with a timer. At bedtime, Mia asked what the moral of Christmas was this year. She asks it about everything, like life is a fable and I'm old man owl. I tucked her in and thought about candlesticks and pay now requests and paper chains and banana dinosaurs. The moral, I said, is that love isn't a filter. It's messy and loud, and it doesn't ask you to shrink. If someone says you have to make yourself smaller to fit in their picture, you get a new frame. She nodded, like this was obvious. And we're keeping our paper chain up till March, she said. Deal, I said. I turned off the light. The house hummed. Not perfect. Ours. I stood in the doorway for a second longer and let the quiet settle. Then I went to the kitchen, opened the cabinet with the bowls, and read the list again, like a prayer. I finally mean it. I don't pay to be treated badly. My kids are not negotiable. No is a complete sentence. Family is a verb. So what do you think? Have you ever had to draw a line with family like this? How did it go for you? I really want to know your stories down in the comments.